There we are. We're firing up on YouTube as I'm trying to even fire up my stuff over here. Getting on the air. We'll be on Facebook Live. Not too long, and then we'll kick off the show live at 5. We're gonna have Isaac Knight talk about a BS Bernie on that. We're gonna have Gregory Brittain talk about the Redlands Stack and Pack apartments, a whole bunch of stuff, coronavirus, the interesting story about a pedophile, the Trump cement mixer truck, which is absolutely fabulous, and many more as we're doing the big countdown. Coming in as it always does at 5, right? Live at 5 on that as we're coming in. We're fired up on YouTube on IE Newswire. We are also fired up on Facebook Live. For all you that doing that, we'll be joining KMAT not too long here at the bottom of the hour with that. A lot of stuff, man. News is breaking all over the place of that. I put a video up last night about 11 o'clock or so. Man, there was cops and ambulances and who knows all what going on back and forth, to and fro on that. Man, they had an area roped off on Myers Street in between Indian and Heacock. That in Moreno Valley. Got a release from Riverside County Sheriff's Department Public Information Officer on 224 around 9:30 p.m. Deputies responded to the 24,000 block of Myers in the city of Moreno Valley, reference to a report of a shooting. Deputies arrived and began providing medical aid to the shooting victims. These victims were then transported for medical treatment for non-life-threatening gunshot wounds. Deputies conducted an area check and were unable to locate the suspect's vehicle. So I don't know if it's kind of looks like a drive-by or something something like that, but that's what was happening in the good old Moval while all the activity was around that area and who knows what. So find a minute on that, on everything going on. There was an arrest made too in the where the CHP officer got hit over in Hemet after a police pursuit of that. Richard Stewart was on that, and if you got the IE Newswire one, I think I got a picture of that, the booking photo of that guy that got that. So that was a pretty big story coming out in Hemet. We'll probably have an update on Thursday when Eddie George comes in on that, if not sooner, of that. He's got some inside information, I think, on that whole case. So that's another hot news story. Did we find out something about coronavirus breaking out in Riverside County or something like that? I just heard coming in. Is there any update on that, Jesse? That we might have?
The only thing I could find was that a cruise ship passenger from Riverside County was tested positive.
Oh, it's tested positive on that whole...
the one that came from Japan, the Diamond Princess?
Really? So one of the IE resident tested positive for coronavirus on that ship that came in. So ships are notorious for spreading that because you're in a compact area like that coming on. So that's another one of the deals coming on. Roll up the... Democratic debate is just firing up on that, I think, right now in South Carolina. We're going to talk about Bernie a little bit on that. But I think Bernie's going to be... We'll be covering that a little bit with Isaac Knight coming up. But I think the ultimate beneficiary of this is going to be Donald J. Trump, because he's the guy that I think in the establishment, we covered it. Bloomberg's camp thinks it's happening. The establishment's going crazy. They think Bernie's going to win this thing, hands down. Man, the long knives are coming out. But I think the guy that's going to ultimately benefit from it is our current president, Donald J. Trump. And Laura Martin, who's one of our contributors and stuff, posted this on IE Newswire. I thought it was absolutely great when you have that, just whenever you got the Trump cement mixer, roll it up there. There's a fleet of these. I guess there's like 10 of them or so that are painted out, as you can see on that. Trump 2020, keep America great. I mean, this absolutely. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, seeing a cement mixer truck painted up like this cruising down the street. I mean, the people that, Trump's got such a following like that. Where did you see everyday people putting this kind of stuff on? This is not a big company, a small cement mixer company. I can't forget. I don't think they listed the name, but we'll have to find out who actually painted these trucks up like this on that. People are doing this all over the place. It's becoming, people just like success. I don't know how else to frame it on that deal, but it's really, really, really hard to argue against success on this stuff. And I think that's why you're seeing the Hispanic vote, the black vote, and I think you're going to see in much greater numbers supporting Trump. There was some poll, and I don't have the real numbers, but Catholics were still voting for the other candidates, the Democratic candidates. But the devout Catholics were supporting Trump, like 67%, and I think even devout Catholics, Hispanics, were supporting Trump 52%. That's the ones that go to church like most every weekend and stuff. Or that's my understanding of it. So there's a big divide, and it's kind of like the divide in the country. I mean, you've got the left and the right coast who are just. Maybe we should have that earthquake and shove them off into the ocean where they're doing that. Not really, but I mean, we have two vastly different worlds coming. We have that world that just thinks free, 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 and the communist, and everything's going to be hunky-dory, and you just steal from the rich man, and that'll make you rich, and da-da-da-da-da. Like I said, the fallacy of Bernie's deal, or socialism in general, it assumes that economic growth is still going to go at the same rate when you start forcibly taking other people's money. When you do that, you remove the incentive for them to work. Hence, work stops. Hence, the money stops coming in. Hence, everything collapses, a la our latest example, Venezuela. The Scandinavian countries were smart enough to figure this out when it started wrecking their countries in the 70s, 80s, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and all the ones the democratic socialists keep talking about come up. That is where the fallacy of this, and they got rid of it, and they're privatizing government industries. And Norway, the only one that equals us in per capita income, actually gets their money off those three letters, OIL, oil, because it's the only place there that's got an abundance of oil. And the reason they can do a lot of the things or have a lot of things, their per capita income is up, is because they got oil, those fossil fuels. It's like Tom Steyer, that yo-ho that's been running commercials, all investor. Oh, I'm green this and da-da-da, and I'm going to kick Trump's ass on the economy. And da-da. You know how he made a lot of his money? Up those three little words. OIL, oil, those fossil fuels that he's haranguing about. This is how disingenuous these guys are. We had some clips coming up with Bernie on that, and we're going to be talking to Isaac Knight here in a minute. But have the story up on the pedophile killer on that. There was a pedophile that was in prison, and he was, this is a story of, on, where is this at? I was looking for where this was, who printed the story of that, no down, the patch, it's in the patch. California inmate admits in a letter to killing two child molesters in prison. Convicted murderer wrote in a letter to a California newspaper that he beat two convicted child molesters to death while inside state prison. This is up in Cochran, California. One of our a convicted murderer admitted in a letter to the Bay Area news organization that he used a cane to beat two convicted child molesters to death last month inside a state prison where they were all housed. The killings came after the man, Jonathan Watson, had warned prison officials he planned to attack another inmate, the Bay Area News Group reported. Watson, 41, said he murdered Graham DeLuis Conte, 62, and David Bobb, 48, who were both serving life sentences for aggravated sexual assault involving children under 14. On January 16th, the attack was announced by prison officials last month who named Watson as the killer. And he went on to say, he basically, from my reading of the article, he basically told him, yeah, I'm going to do this. And with the surprising, maybe not the surprising, but he's been getting an outpouring of support, release this guy, that. Now, I'm not going to go that far on that, but because the guy is, he's dangerous. I mean, this guy, you could just, if you saw the picture of him on there, flash that back up. Yes, this guy, you don't want this guy walking around outside of that. You don't want him freed. But I think this guy deserves to go to the country club prison. The one where all the richies, probably, what's his name, Weinstein, that just got convicted on that. He'll probably buy his way into what they call the rich man's prison, which you pay like $500,000 a year. You get your own condominium in there. That you can have your wife come in and give you, you can have sex in there and whatever for once a week or so. You get to come visit. You got your own TV, bedroom, da-da-da. It's kind of like living on a hotel or resort. You just can't get off that property. You got all the resort stuff. It's kind of like a resort. You just can't leave that four walls compound. But you're not serving in cell block H like, Watson was with these other guys, but that's, I said this, and I said if the death penalty needs to be extended to pedophiles. Anybody that is sexually assaulting children, in my book, does not deserve to be walking on the top side of the grass. They need to be looking at the roots of the grass. So that's my thought on it. You can comment, talk about it on that. But we should be getting Isaac Knight up here on that. But no, I firmly believe the death penalty should be, in my world, should be extended to those criminals that have that committed. I mean, you might not be killing the kids, but you're going to scar them severely for life on that whole deal. So that's my take on it. I wouldn't let him out because he does look like he does look like a very dangerous individual, and it's not the type of person you want walking the streets on that. But man, he saved us nothing else. He saved us a lot of money on that whole 2 prisoners coming in on top of that. So there we go. We're going to be talking with Isaac Knight on here. We haven't had him on in a while. He writes for Political Vanguard. His specialty is foreign policy, and he covers a lot of that issues on there. We're going to kind of mix foreign policy and domestic policy in because it all relates. But welcome to the show, Isaac Knight.
Hey, how are you?
Absolutely fantastic. I wanted to talk about, first we're going to run this Chris Matthews clip in a little bit, but it has to do with Bernie Sanders and, the establishment, which I call them, and they're both on the right and left, but they're just going apoplectic over this whole deal, because it looks like, and a lot of them, even Bloomberg's camp saying, it looks like Bernie's going to run away with the Democratic nomination. But Chris, and this is my whole take on this, if Sean Hannity or Rush Limbaugh would have said the exact same thing as Chris Matthews did on this particular deal, they would have been hung upside down by their toes. Chris Matthews was comparing the Bernie Sanders, it looks like, potential nomination of the Democratic Party. He's comparing it to when the Nazis took over the French on that. So when you got the clip from Chris Matthews, run that, and we'll get Isaac's take on this here in a second, because I think it's absolutely incredulous. The double standard in this is just, there's no better example, I think, of what's wrong in our society, the way, or the divide in our society, I should say, on that. So when you got the clip ready, Jesse, to run on that, well, we are going on that, so let it roll.
It is pretty much over unless that changes. I was reading last night, Brian, I know you're a history guy too. I'm reading last night about the fall of France in the summer of 1940. And the general, Renault, calls up Churchill and says, it's over. And Churchill said, how can it be? You got the greatest army in Europe. How can it be over? He said, it's over. So I had that suppressed feeling. I can't be as wild as Carville, but he is damn smart. And I think he's damn right on this one. Joy.
Well, I mean, Chris...
So stop it right there. Can you imagine if somebody on the right side, commentator, said something like comparing the Bernie eventual or potential nomination to that, and you hear nothing but silence on that from Chris Matthews doing it on Hardball on MSNBC or whatever college. Am I crazy or what? Phil, give me your take on it, Isaac.
It's unbelievable. Well, first of all, the hyperbole of it is amazing. Again, as you said, I mean, if anyone on the right had said this about Trump when Trump was running, the left would have run away with it. They'd have talked about all the dissent in the ranks. It would be a sign that the Republican Party is unraveling at the seams, and it's all over, and the GOP is finished. We'd never have heard the end of it, even today. They'd still be, pulling that up every now and then when Donald Trump says something. Oh, remember that time that so-and-so said, it was like the fall of France? And that is a huge hyperbole. It is difficult to imagine now, or put yourself back in that place where the largest army in Europe was defeated by the Germans in 45 days. France surrendered. In fact, the United States, which was a neutral power and very isolationist, passed the Two-Ocean Navy Act as a result, where we literally doubled the size of the United States Navy in 4 years because France had fallen to the Germans, and we were concerned for our security. I mean, that was a huge event. Now, for Chris Matthews, for the Democrats, it is a huge disaster that Bernie Sanders is out in front, and I can see where he's coming from saying that. But again, like you've said, the double standard here on the hyperbole is outrageous. If this had been a conservative commentator talking about Trump, we'd never have heard the end of it.
Well, I'm very glad a sane person like you is agreeing with me, because I can get insane or kind of crazy on this stuff at times. But no, it struck me that's when I heard that, and I think it was Saturday night after the Nevada caucuses, I'm thinking, well, man, this is going to blow up like sky high. It's not like it doesn't even. I don't even know if Chris Matthews has even issued an apology or clarification on why he even brought it up in the context of the whole thing. It's like it didn't. It's almost like it didn't exist. And like you said, that's my take. If somebody on the right would have said this about Trump or something on that, it would have been you couldn't run to the farthest end of the earth and not had it. They would have been megaphoning that all over the place.
Oh, for sure. And Bernie is a disaster for the Democrats in a lot of ways, but the most important one is that he is what they've all believed for many years. The left, as I've written about on Political Vanguard, Marxism is a religion. And people will say they're socialists, or they'll say that they're democratic socialists. They'll couch it in different terms. But at the end of the day, when you get down to the specifics, they all want the same thing. They'll talk about Denmark and Norway, but what they really want is Venezuela and the Soviet Union. That's where all this leads, inevitably. It can't lead anywhere else. And Bernie doesn't couch his language in that moderate or softened voice that the other Democrats do. So he just comes right out and says he's a socialist. Well, they've spent decades brainwashing young people, especially college students, to act against their own interests and support socialism and support all this crazy stuff. And now the chickens seem to have come home to roost. They aren't willing to accept Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden or any of these old establishment Democrats anymore. They want crazy Bernie, who's going out and championing the cause that they've been raised to support.
Yeah, you're doing a perfect segue, and I even talked about it. I think it's Norway. They have a per capita income on that, but I bet you probably know what three little letters they have that allows them to be at a per capita income with the United States. I bet you know what they are. They're called OIL, oil. And
Yes.
all those Scandinavian countries and stuff, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, they talk about, in the 70s and 80s when they were on the socialistic kick, they've gotten rid of that. They're privatizing industries, opening up the free market. And the dirty little secret is, especially with Sweden, the tax the rich? No. They were taxing the poor people of that to provide that, and it was all collapsing. And they were at least smarter than places like Venezuela. They saw the error of what was going on and have been instituting free market policies on doing to turn their countries around in that. And in some cases, they have freer markets than we do in the have had up until Donald Trump, have had in the United States.
It's an entrepreneur's paradise. If you're starting a business, Sweden especially will give you every credit. They will exempt you from every tax. They will do anything they can for entrepreneurs starting new businesses. And that is exactly where we should be. At least we've lowered our corporate tax rate here in the U.S. But yeah, I mean, these European countries are large social welfare states, granted, but they are financed by very strong private market economies, free markets. And that's been the case all along. But, people don't put that all in historical perspective. The reason they have those programs is that somebody, who could that be, spent billions of dollars in the late 40s and early 50s to kickstart the European economy and has been footing the defense bill for the better part of 70 years. So that's why they're able to do that. And now, thankfully, Donald Trump has come back and said, hey, you know what? Europe needs to be paying their fair share. And suddenly, as we've seen for the last few years, they're reducing taxes, freeing up their markets to generate greater revenue, and reducing social welfare spending because they need to kick up their defense budgets.
And the next thing, and this is a clip on Sean Hannity had it on last night, but of that, to see, to prove the point of where this is all going, especially if what the democratic socialism is really about, of that, it's not about Norway or Sweden or anything. It's about Nicaragua. It's about Venezuela. It's about Cuba. Run the clip of the Ortega clip of Sean Hannity last night when you got it ready to go, Jesse.
Regimes the world has ever seen. Look at this, 1988. What a wonderful honeymoon. Took his wife, 10-day honeymoon, the former Soviet Union, where he praised their infrastructure and their youth programs. Who honeymoons in the former Soviet Union? The former Soviet Union. Forget about the hostile actor that is Vladimir Putin, and he's hostile, or the hostile regime that is Russia. They're hostile. The communist system in the Soviet Union was a special level of evil in and of itself. Now, did Bolshevik Bernie forget that tens of millions of political dissidents were murdered by the very same Soviet government where he's honeymooning at the time? Did he forget about the gulags? Did he forget about the KGB terrorizing the entire population? Did he forget that millions more died from starvation? Did he forget about the bread lines? Because that was a way of life in the former Soviet Union, waiting online for basic necessities. Oh, milk, wheat, bread, medical supplies, all in short supply.
Bernie's honeymooning in the old Soviet Union and explaining to that. Does that not sound like what Venezuela is going through? He was praising Daniel Ortega of Nicaragua, Fidel Castro of Cuba. All these same things. This is what your democratic socialism is about. It is not about Sweden and Norway and Denmark. It is about taking you down the path to the old Soviet Union, to Cuba, to Nicaragua, or the latest example of the socialist communist failure is Venezuela, Isaac Knight.
Yeah, this is just terrible. To have him defending the Cuban regime, that is absolutely ridiculous. Actually, that's an important aspect of my own political progression. I used to be a young college student at one time, and I actually sat on the Santa Cruz County Democrats Social Committee, Central Committee there. They passed a resolution in favor of Cuba, and I resigned. That was the first step I made in walking away before walk away was cool.
Right.
Freedom is freedom. You have guys in those regimes, especially Cuba, where they suppress free speech. They murder people for disagreeing with the government. They imprison political prisoners for years and torture them. The literacy program that Bernie Sanders is talking about was a propaganda program to feed the children of Cuba all of this baloney about how evil America was that was causing their poverty and how great our hero and our savior Fidel Castro is. It's all a bunch of nonsense. And it's funny because that's just a mirror image of your college students who are walking around with these Che Guevara shirts on, and they don't understand that this guy hunted down, lined up, and shot homosexuals deliberately, intentionally. Wearing a Che Guevara shirt at a college today would be like young Jewish kids wearing an Adolf Hitler shirt. This is just asinine. And yet Bernie and these pajama boys with their Che Guevara shirts are out there celebrating these people, and it just gives you a sense for these young kids how ignorant and illiterate of history they really are. I mean, you talk about having no clue whom you're supporting.
It's crazy, and I mean, you're talking about exactly what we should. This was if they and they're going through the Democratic debate. You're not going to hear questions or anything or talking about this, and that's what they should be talking about. Is what the questioners of the debaters should be asking Bernie Sanders and Tom Steyer, who made most of his money off of oil. Again, why does this theme always keep coming up? Because fossil fuels is what makes this world run. But what I'm saying is they don't push this. Say Democrat socialism free. It's the concept they're selling is very easy to sell. Yeah, we're going to give you everything. We're going to make this a wizard of the land of the Wizard of Oz, the Garden of Eden. We're going to take it from the rich. But what they don't realize, and their fallacy is when you take away the incentive for people to make money, then all that income stops, and there is no rich man out there working because you took it all for him, and he said, "The hell with it."
Yeah, they literally want to take these kids' jobs away from their employers in taxes to pay for the free college education that will make that college education worth less than the money you spend to pay for it. I mean, it's amazing the downward cycle of economic value there. You could get your PhD writing about that, although it'd be difficult to find a university that'd give it to you. But the fact is, I mean, look, you just have to look at that. Again, these kids have been sold on this idea that they shouldn't act against their own interests. If you look at who these kids are, ask them to do a Green New Deal challenge. No smartphone, no electricity for a week. No heating, air conditioning, none of that stuff, and eat 20% of your average daily caloric intake. You do that for 1 week, and then you tell me how great communism is. And that's a rich lifestyle in communism where you can get 20% of your daily caloric intake. People in Venezuela are going out after livestock, cats, dogs, and whatever they can find to eat. So this would educate some of these young people as to the stupidity that they are endorsing.
It is, and that's why it's great to have you on, because you not only have foreign policy, but you have a great historical perspective of how all this stuff works. Isaac Knight, you got about 30 seconds. Tell them where they can read your stuff at Political Vanguard.
Yeah, please visit politicalvanguard.com, where Tom Del Beccaro and I and a few other writers keep the truth alive and well in an era of censorship and left-wing bias. It's always great to be on your show, and I'm happy to be back anytime.
You got it. Thanks a lot for being on. We'll have you back again as events warrant.
Thank you.
You got it. That's why I say that. Okay, you think I wave my arms too much and I get a little animated and excited and crazy about this stuff, and this is why. I mean, it isn't that, there's guys that just, a guy like Isaac Knight that studied this stuff and really, really, really knows the intricate details of the history much better than I do. And he's telling you basically in much saner words than I do, but of what the fallacy of this whole thing is and where we should be talking about. Again, the Democratic debates are going on, and that's what you won't hear this kind of discussion with the presidential candidates. And that's the discussion you should be hearing, and you should be demanding of that, not the Jerry Springer style show, entertainment network that they bring you and disguise it or do that under political, we're informing you or whatever. No, they're after the money and the ratings and everything else to get eyeballs in. They're looking for a food fight. That they're not looking for discussions of substantive stuff that we really should be talking about but we are not. And that's what the real problem is in all this stuff. Because what are we going to do? I mean, if and Kenny White brought it out last night. I mean, we're just within a heartbeat of Bernie Sanders, possibly.
We're 1 minute out, guys.
And what happens if and I kind of my take on it is the overwhelming odds are if they elect Bernie that Trump's going to have a cakewalk, because even a lot of the never Trumpers and a lot of people that are going to that didn't like Trump or were campaigning against him, supposedly on his side of the political spectrum, of that, they're going to be, when the choice comes down to Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump, they're going to take Donald Trump every day of the week and 9 days to Sunday. Because as bad as they view Donald Trump, Bernie
30
Sanders,
seconds, guys, or a little less.
As we are saying, Bernie Sanders will take this country down, and he will take it down fast. Because
all right, guys, here we go.
There's
10
no
seconds.
way we can do that. We're going to be
.com and download your free phone app today. IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Coming in as we're joining the Mighty Met 1490 KMET on that, as we do every Monday through Friday at this time. We just had a great discussion with Isaac Knight about the impending doom of a potential Bernie Sanders presidency, which it looks like. And I mean, conventional politics can change in a heartbeat, do a 180. And but I mean, most people, especially on the Democratic side, are like in panic mode. Well, not most of them, yes, are in panic mode because it looks like Bernie Sanders is going to win this. He might even win the South Carolina primary. And if he does that, Joe Biden is toast. I mean, he tried to deny it, but I think if I remember correctly, there's tape out there of him about 2 weeks ago saying South Carolina is my firewall. He's been saying he's going to wipe the floor with that, with everybody in South Carolina, and that if he doesn't win South Carolina, probably as Bernie Sanders won over him in Nevada by 2-1, if he doesn't win if he just wins a 4 or 5 point margin, he's toast. I mean, I'm saying 98.7% you can bury Joe Biden, and none of the others are going to have a snowball's chance in blank of getting it. Like Bloomberg's camp admitted, even with Bloomberg's billions, we don't think, we're looking at the table and we don't think we can stop him. And he's hired the best and the brightest of any political mind available that he could get a hold of to figure this stuff out. What has he spent? Like 2, 3, 4, some reports, $500 million so far Bloomberg spent. Tom Steyer spent, I don't know, $50-100 million so far on that. Plus Bernie's raised a lot of money, and Pocahontas has raised a few bucks on 10 or 12 or $20 million or something on that. And they can't stop, Bernie on this. And he's hijacking the Democratic Party and not turning it to the Democratic. So, it is a Democratic socialist. He wants totalitarian rule, communism, and we'll be bringing this out some more. We brought it out a little bit with Isaac Knight on that. The democratic socialism he's talking about is not Norway, Sweden, or any of that other stuff. It is about Nicaragua. It is about the old Soviet Union. It's about Cuba, Venezuela. He's praising Fidel Castro and Daniel Ortega and the Soviet Union. And wait till we get to some of the stuff that he said. Oh, wow. Some of the stuff that he wrote earlier in his career will blow your mind. We'll have that coming up tomorrow. check out, see if you can find C-SPAN or something, Jesse. See if you can pick up the Democratic debate. Maybe we'll just chime in and see what they're saying in their few minutes that we got before. We're going to have Gregory Brittain on. He's going to talk about a local issue in Redlands. They've got a measure on the ballot about increasing the housing density in there around Redlands, or stack and pack apartments, as he calls it. It's a measure G, I think, in Redlands. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. But yeah, maybe we'll, if you can find something on that, because I made the point of, we should have been taught, the debates or the candidates forum should be the questions and stuff and the things pointed out, like Isaac Knight and I were talking about earlier in the hour, but they're not. They're going to be superficial questions, like like the old underwear question, boxers or briefs, that the one that Bill Clinton got back in the 90s or stuff. They ask such inane questions most of the time in there. And then what I hate about debates is this: you got 30 seconds, you got a minute. How about, if you're answering the questions or saying something compelling, you will get as much time as you need. If you're trying to make campaign speeches or talking about nonsense, you can go stand in the freaking corner. All this fairness stuff that we keep talking, there is nothing. Life is not fair. How about let's instead of fairness, how about let's introduce a little common sense? What a concept. Like that. Not that, everybody gets the same, we divide up and equal, and then you wind up, because they do that, because like I said, they talk you into the food fight to get you into watch, instead of roll some of the debate. This is Pocahontas up there.
We can build together. We need to speak of the prosperity we can build together. How about a wealth tax in America? Because with a 2-cent tax on just the top 1/10 of 1%, we have a chance to invest in universal child care for every one of our babies, to really level the playing field. Put $50 billion into historically black colleges and universities, and start closing the racial wealth gap by canceling student loan debt for 43 million Americans. We need to talk about our aspirations, our hopes.
Stop it right there.
This is a moment.
Just turn the volume down. Are you going to pay back the dad that asked you, that said he busted his butt to pay for college and stuff? Are you going to pay him back? You said no. The guy that goes out there and works, his daughter goes out there and works and pays for their college education, they don't get it. But the kids that went out there and partied, their parents probably went out and paid vacations, their parents didn't save anything or budget or pay for it, they get it free. What kind of nonsense is that? That's just the idiocracy that's going on. Pull some more of that up. We'll see what's going on over there. They're in a break right now. But that's why I say, tell me when they come back. When you come back up, give me the thumbs up. No, this is what's wrong. They should be calling her on that right now. That should be the next question coming out, saying, "Okay, Liz, first taxing the 1/10, the 1% of the world wealth, No, you want to take everything. You want to run that because you think you know better. You think you know better how to run my life than I do. And you know what? You're full of blank. You don't know Jack Clyde. If you didn't sit up there and yell and deceive and lie to the people, you would not be where you're at. It's one of the great things about Trump, is he calls it as he sees it, and he goes right back after them like that. Crazy Bernie, Pocahontas, Mini Mike, the whole gamut. Pencil neck Schiff or whatever. The guys that are attacking him, he does not take any quarter. And that's what I'm saying. We got to get off this sensitivity bandwagon, fairness, No, they should have lit right into her and saying, how dare you say, the ones that screwed off and got a degree in Mongolian basket weaving or some stupid thing, and we're out there partying, living a life of luxury on your and my tax dollar? No. Not no, hell no. This is the idiot. This is the planned destruction of the United States. Right here, right now, you're seeing it. And that's what they're doing all across the board on that. You couldn't have played a greater clip than when she did that. That showed the fallacy right there of the whole. Everybody on that stage basically, maybe sans Bloomberg a little bit of it when he said, "Yeah, Bernie's crazy when they attacked him on capitalism, because who better personifies capitalism than what? Bloomberg, who's worth $40 or $50 billion or some ridiculous amount of money." Again, it's stupid. It's ridiculous. I mean, that's why I can't watch these debates. I mean, I watched a little bit of the last one. All I have to do is see 30 seconds of this debate, and I mean, I can't believe it. How could you watch this stuff? I mean, there should be a revolution in the streets of doing that. I mean, they booed. I think they booed Bloomberg when he mentioned the capitalist stuff of that coming back. They're cheering the Bernie bots of the world of, oh, everything's free, or we're going to take it from somebody else. When you hear the sick mind of some of those things that Bernie Sanders has wrote over the years, I don't see how anyone could possibly even consider listening to the guy, much less voting him to represent you for anything. I don't care if it was sewer cleaning commissioner. And this is the savior of that? Daryl Peden, who's on our school board, is out there supporting this guy, and at his rally in Moreno Valley. This is the kind of stuff that's going on in the Inland Empire, in your communities. These are the ones you voted for. The Moreno Valley Educators Association endorsed Daryl Peden, and he's supporting Bernie Sanders in this whole regime. Remember, Daryl, you're not supporting Bernie's not supporting you. You're supporting Bernie. Roll a little bit of the debate.
Been able to pass a major gun legislation in a quarter of a century. And just think about this. In those 25 years, we've had Columbine, Newtown, Parkland, Las Vegas. We could go on and on. Vice President Biden, I want to start with you. Why should anyone have faith that you're the one who can get this done now?
Because I'm the only one that ever got it done nationally. I beat the NRA twice. I got assault weapons banned. I got magazines that could not hold more than 10 rounds in them. I got them eliminated, except we had a thing called an election with hanging chads in Florida, and it was not reauthorized. In addition to that, I passed the Brady bill with waiting periods. I led that fight. But my friend to my right and others have, in fact, also given to the gun manufacturers absolute immunity. Imagine if I stood here and said, we give immunity to drug companies. We give immunity to tobacco companies. That has caused carnage on our streets. 150 million people have been killed since 2007 when Bernie voted.
That's all we need to hear about that. Yeah, again, there's more of the control. The Second Amendment is only there for two purposes. It is to protect you and your family from perpetrators, and most importantly, probably even, well, maybe at least as important, to protect your family from a tyrannical government, from ding-dongs like Joe Biden, from defending yourself against a totalitarian takeover of what he's doing. They cannot do it against an armed public. You can see how they want to destroy you of that. And each and every day, this is going on. You can see where they're going with this whole thing of that. There's all of them up there on the Democratic debate stage are absolutely dangerous on that. Well, maybe we'll get Gregory's take on this a little bit before we talk about that. We have a very special guest. He wants to talk about a very important topic that's going on in the Inland Empire, Measure G in Redlands, which is about housing density. More importantly, are they going to put stack and pack apartments in Redlands against, the residents are going to decide. But to break it all down for us on that, we have a guy from Redlands Tea Party Patriots. He even does a radio show, I think, on 590 on Saturdays, or he used to on that. Gregory BRITTAIN, welcome back to the show.
Welcome. Thank you for having me on.
I don't know if you caught it, but we were just running a clip of the Democratic debates, and Joe Biden's talking about the gun control stuff of that. And Pocahontas is talking about the free college. I said, well, the question didn't come back as, well, why you're going to forgive all the ones that are partying on the dime of everything, but the dad who asked you, I and my kid who busted our ass and got a real college degree, are you going to pay us back? And she said no. Tell me I'm not freaking crazy.
Okay, you're not freaking crazy.
Thank you. I mean,
let's get a second opinion.
Yeah, I mean, where's the logic in this? That's not the question. But I want to get to your subject on this stuff of that, because this is a very, I say this a lot. I mean, we focus a lot on this, but 98.7% of what happens in your local community affects you more than what's going on, no matter what's going on at the District of Criminals or the Scoundrels in Sacramento. Tell us about Measure G in Redlands.
Sure. As we've all seen, they have these box-like stack and pack, what we call them, high-rise apartments that are sprouting up all over California. And we haven't had that in Redlands yet because the voters previously adopted measures that limit and regulate how much growth there is in the city. And there's been a lot under those measures, but it controls it. So the developers and the city council, acting on their behalf, have put on the local ballot in Redlands Measure G. Measure G will wipe out those growth limitation measures in a wide area of town. If you're familiar with Redlands, it goes from Alabama Street all the way over to Judson Street, well east of the University of Redlands, and there's a lot of residential single-family homes out in that area. And if it passes, the city council can build unlimited height, unlimited density apartments anywhere and everywhere in that area. They can waive the requirement that developers pay all of the development impact fees. They don't have to maintain traffic standards. They don't have to maintain noise standards. Basically, the developers can build whatever they want to in that area if Measure G passes, which is why these out-of-town developers have already put in more than $120,000 to try to get Measure G passed. All of the money for Measure G is coming from these out-of-town developers, and we really have a bipartisan coalition. People that don't necessarily agree on everything. We got Donald Trump supporters, we got Obama supporters, we got Bernie Sanders supporters, we got everywhere in between have come together in this to say, no, we don't want to change the unique character of Redlands. We don't want to look like Anaheim. We don't want to look like Irvine. We want to look like Redlands.
Yes, you want to keep the flavor of that. I talk about it a lot. You talk about they're going to drop the fees and everything for this stuff. If they had some sane fees or regulations or stuff like that, developers could afford. We didn't have CEQA laws that hold up legit projects for many years, and the costs and regulations. If we had sane development policies like maybe we had in the 70s or 80s, or when you could, what it cost you $200 to get a permit to build a custom home. Now it's like $100,000. That's the reason why you can't. That's why housing is not affordable. It's because of government policy. It's and interrupting or cutting off what the free market would provide, which is most people want their own place on their own yard of that to maintain. They don't want to live in a little cubicle.
Right. And the studies show that all other things being equal, if you have a neighborhood with people who own their own homes, there's less crime, children do better in school, there's more civic engagement. A house is a key asset for accumulating wealth. So that's why the baby boomers have so much more wealth than the younger generations, because they've been able to buy a home. And, of course, over time, the home appreciates. So there's all these benefits to having single-family owned homes in your community and in your city, and you just don't get that with apartment dwellers.
There was none other than, I don't know if you know the study, I think it was in 2014 by the California Legislative Analyst's Office, which was supposed to be nonpartisan. They come to two conclusions. You increase housing density, you decline the quality of life in your community, and even more important, test scores in children go down. I think it backs up exactly what you said.
Yep. And there's the reason for that. I mean, Franklin Roosevelt, said that a nation of homeowners is unconquerable.
Yeah, that's even. I don't remember that one, but that's a good one to come back with because that's your the left's one of their so-called pariahs or heroes saying that.
Right. And it's all specious on the other side. They're saying you have to do it to redevelop the now closed Redlands Mall. Well, no, you don't. They can do it on a 4/5 vote. And the mall does not run from Alabama Street all the way over to Judson Street. So that's a totally specious argument. As another main argument is that, well, we don't give the Redlands City Council a blank check today to build anything, then the state's going to come in and do something worse. Well, no. SB 50, which has been 3 times defeated, and even if it was passed, would have given the city 2.5 years to try to figure out how to build more housing. The mayor who's pushing this said there's the property, familiar with Redlands, where they were going to build the new Walmart. That could be used to meet state housing requirements now that Walmart isn't going to build its new store. So there's all other options. All of their arguments are specious. They just want to make Redlands look like Anaheim, and the developers can make a whole lot of money doing that.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredulous because like I said, we built plenty. Communities were built most of the Inland Empire sands in the last 10 or 15 years. That was the suburban lifestyle, the dream of owning your own home. Like you said, like Franklin Roosevelt, you want to become incomparable, you want to empower yourself, you want to have control over your life and have an improved quality of life. It starts, and when a big part of that is home ownership. And you've probably seen the stats, not only across Southern California, but even in the Inland Empire. You're seeing the percentage of people who own homes declining and renters going up. And just like the socialist, whatever cabal that's up there debating right now, or led by, looks like eventual nominee Bernie Sanders, that's another tick in the deal of this stuff to chip away at you, to get control of you. Once they got you in the pen, man, it's too late.
Yeah. Having your own property means so much, politically, socially, economically, that I think that's part of the longer run agenda, is really to have fewer people that get to own their own property. Immediately, the question for Redlands voters between now and March 3rd is, do you want to sell Redlands to out-of-town developers for $120,000 and give the Redlands City Council a blank check? And you can we encourage everyone to read the city attorney's impartial analysis in your sample ballot. Series of bullet points. Confirms. If it passes, they can build unlimited height, unlimited density. They can waive the requirement that developers pay all of their impact fees. They can make traffic worse, and so on. Just read the city attorney's independent analysis, and it confirms everything we're saying.
You got it.
Redlands, vote no on Major G.
Yes, you got it. To listen to Gregory on that. Got 30 seconds. Tell you if you got anything else you want to plug, or send them their way where they can check out why you should vote no on Measure G.
Our website is SaveRedlands.com, and you can find us on Facebook at Save Redlands, Vote No on Measure G. Save Redlands, Vote No on Measure G. If you want any more information, and my telephone number is on the latter Facebook site. We're happy to talk to you, get you signs, any way you can help out the cause and save our city.
You got it. Thanks for pointing out this very important issue, Greg. We'll have you on again as events warrant.
Thank you, Roy.
You got it. There's another important deal on that. Pay attention to what's going on locally. That's going to affect your lives more than that. See, do you got the Democratic debate up there still on that? Crack in there just for a minute or two. We'll see if we can check in on what lunacy's going on over there in the fantasy land of the world we call the new socialist takeover.
Public educators. I'm a little biased because I'm married to one, and I get an education about education every day I come home. I have seen how teachers are being expected to dip into their own pockets to furnish their classrooms. Teachers are being expected to handle the mental health challenges that their students are facing because we don't have an adequate mental health system to support kids. And now some politicians, because they aren't willing to face the need for common sense gun law, are expecting teachers to somehow transform themselves into highly trained armed guards when there's a threat to a classroom. We have to show not only with compensation, but with support for the profession overall, our regard for those who are educating our kids. And yes, that means a Secretary of Education who will support teachers.
So
it also
shut
means
up,
investment.
Mayor Pete, on this. Yeah, first thing, in California, class of 30 kids, that's $600,000. You're telling me they ain't got enough money for pencils and books? Point number 2, ding dong. Yeah, we want people in the schools who are, if they are trained to that, to have a firearm in there, because if something happens, your best defense is there with somebody armed at the point of attack. There is no perfect example of this when Mr. Wilson, who took out evil in that Texas church, the perpetrator got 2 people in less than 5 seconds. How many more, if Mr. Wilson wasn't there to take out that evil, would have died in that church? They did that because they had a slaughter 2 years ago in 1917 of a church of 30 or 40 people died because nobody had a firearm in there to stop it. These guys are completely freaking insane. I don't even know where the logic that they come up with is. I can't even wrap my head around it. It makes my head want to explode. You're not going to wish evil away. You're not going to wish troubles away. You're not going to take it from the rich and give it to somebody else that has been proven time and time again to fail. And as the late Jerry Pierce used to say, best indication of future behavior is past behavior. And if it's failed 9,472 gazillion times, it's going to fail again. Do you want to be the Soviet Union? Do you want to be Nicaragua? Do you want to be Venezuela? Because that's burning and all their heroes. Or do you want to buy the BS on climate change when Tom Steyer's making money off of oil hand over freaking fist? And he's telling you how bad fossil fuels are. Fossil fuels are buying the ads that he's telling you they ain't any good with. Now, how insane is that? At least Bloomberg had enough guts to try and defend capitalism, because what else could he do? I mean, the guy's only worth $50 billion or some ridiculous amount of money. I don't know. We'll be back and try all this stuff again tomorrow live at 5, starting on IE Newswire Live Daily on Facebook and YouTube. Catch us there at 5. We'll be rolling into KMET as we usually do at 5:30 to discuss all the topics of the day on Wicked Wednesday. Stephanie should be in on that to give her perspective, and we'll pick up on the Bernie stuff, some of the even weirder stuff you ain't gonna believe what the guy has written. It's been fun. I hope you can take the Democratic debates. We'll see you tomorrow.